Uh, these 3 episodes taught me one thing: grace is the word of the week. Okay? Because Felipe need Tori to give him grace. Mecca grateful that Belle Jolie keep extending him grace. And I'm sitting here wondering why these women got to keep extending so much daggone grace. Because these men won't stop doing the stuff that requires it. At some point, can we move from grace to changed behavior? Because, baby, episode 16 was Gaslight City. Episode 17 was everybody and everybody else's marriage. And episode 18 left us with a cliffhanger like, damn, well, what did Felipe say to Tori the night before? But before we get started, I did notice that a whole lot of y'all had looked at my little bear video where I was talking about bear running away from me and comparing that to how we run from God sometimes, but God is never leaves. And yes, I love the Lord, okay? But I also am a work in progress, and this mouth is still under construction. So if you came over here from that video thinking that you were about to get a Sunday school baby, this ain't it, okay? If you watched my other Married at First Sight recaps, then you already know we about to talk our stuff. We start the 3 episodes still dealing with the fallout from the couples dinner. Felipe is upset that Tori didn't speak up for him. And Tori's basically like, what? What I gotta defend you for? Now she gotta remind him that, look, I have defended you before. And the women was actually surprised that I did it. But tonight, nah, dog, I'm not defending you no more. Because they was holding Felipe's feet to the fire about the same things that Tori has been pretty much dealing with: the indecisiveness, the talking about wanting to sleep with other women, wanting his independence, not knowing whether he wants to be married. And now Felipe talking about we have to act like partners if we're going to be partners. Felipe, be so for real. Because it's real ironic when Felipe's on the chopping block, suddenly he wants consideration. Remember that word. Meanwhile, Tori's been asking this man to consider her the whole daggone time, and before they even got to the couples retreat, Felipe gives Tori yet another reason to question him. Now they drive into the retreat in Tori's car. Tori's car broke down. They pulled over. They need to tow. Tori handling everything. Now look, I'm not saying a man needs to be a mechanic and he was supposed to get under there and take out the carburetor and figure the transmission out, but dog, participate. Baby, you got AAA, let's call somebody. You can use my car while yours is in the shop. Something. Instead, Tori making all the calls, figuring out the tow, thinking about the repairs, figuring out transportation for the next week, possibly having to buy another car. Sir, the car is smoking. That was the partnership practical exam, and you chose D. Rubber her hand. So Tori, all in her confessional, was like, "I'm completely turned off," and I felt her. She doesn't need Felipe to magically fix the car. She wants to feel like when life goes wrong, she doesn't have to be the only adult surviving the problem, solving the problem. And y'all know I've been saying all season that Felipe always looks a little bit off to me. Like, he's looking pale and clammy, sweaty, slouched over, eyes looking all happy. Like he just left happy hour. Like it's just an all day happy hour for Felipe. Now, let me say this clearly. I don't know this man, and I'm not saying Felipe is actually drunk or on anything, but I'm saying he looked like it to me. And this episode did not change my mind. These episodes did not change my mind. Meanwhile, Belle Jolie is still dealing with Mecca. I seen you and I was like, okay, she pretty. But is she pretty enough for me? Nah. What, Mecca? Oh my gosh. So that night, Belle Jolie shuts down and Mecca keeps trying to talk to her and she ignoring them. You know what I'm saying? Like, give me some breathing room. Leave me alone. And it's like you just question whether your wife was pretty enough for you. Give her 5 damn minutes. And Mecca laying there with the Jones braid talking about, you gonna talk to me? Sir, turn over. Turn over. So the next day, they in the hot tub, and of course, they talk about it. And she's like, this is what you said. You know what I'm saying? He's like, I didn't say that. Of course, production winds it back and shows that he did, in fact, say, yeah, she pretty. But, I mean, is she pretty enough for me? No. Yeah, you said that, Mecca. So he goes into, well, if I said that, I was wrong. If we just watched you say it, Mecca. So, of course, what happens? I ain't even got to say it. Y'all fill in the blank. Belle Jolie gives him grace. And production is asking Mecca whether he thinks he might be self-sabotaging a relationship. He basically says, yeah, maybe subconsciously he does or says things that eventually make somebody go away because that's what he's used to. Sir, yes, that's exactly what we've all been watching. And this does become important later because this man is going to keep doing things that hurt Belle Jolie, and then by decision day, he's going to be like, well, if everything I've said and done makes you say no, I understand. Of course you understand, dog. You've been building the exit ramp the whole damn marriage. Now, everybody ends up going on a couples retreat. Everybody gets under the same roof. And the first night they play a game called Most Likely Spouse. And child, most of them negative cards might as well said Felipe. Every answer, most likely to do this, most likely to do that. Felipe. It's all fun and jokes and laughing. And everybody is bagging up. Now, when I say bagging up, like in Delaware, bagging up means to laughing my ass off. Laughing real hard, rolling on the floor laughing, bagging up. So Tori's sitting there and she getting more and more uncomfortable with the whole situation. And she's in her confessional that Felipe almost seems like he's enjoying being labeled a womanizer. And that's the part that Felipe is missing. For him, Felipe the womanizer is the funny character at the party. For Tori, she's married to the man who has actually told her that he might want to sleep with other women. So they're not just laughing at Felipe. It's like Tori is the punchline. Meanwhile, they ask most likely to self-sabotage a relationship and everybody points to Mecca. Baby, the house has the completed assessment. Most likely to get the ick, everybody points at Caitlyn. Remember that. Most likely to opt for a spouse swap. Caitlyn again. And Caitlin's laughing, oh yeah, that's me. Meanwhile, Devin is sitting there looking crazy. He's literally like, I hate this game. And this, like I'm saying to y'all, this matters later because Devin has already been struggling to understand where he stands with Caitlyn. They haven't kissed since the honeymoon. He's trying not to push her. He's trying not to assume. Meanwhile, Caitlyn is getting voted most likely to get the ick and most likely to swap husbands, and she's laughing along. Then later she's going to wonder why this man doesn't understand that scratching his back means that tonight's the night. Girl, be ever so for real. After the game, Tori's telling Felipe how the entire thing made her feel. And I want to be careful because people throw the word gaslight around for every argument. Not every disagreement is gaslighting. Not every defensive response is gaslighting. But watch how this conversation unfolds. Tori's actual point is your behavior affects me because I'm your wife. Everybody was laughing about the things you've said and done that have actually hurt me. You joined in and I felt like I was the butt of the joke too. I just want you to consider me. That's it. But Felipe keeps answering arguments she isn't making. Tori's like, consider me. Felipe's like, so you care what everybody thinks? Tori's like, your behavior created this narrative. Felipe's like, what did I do tonight? Yelling at her, raising his voice, getting frustrated. She's like, it hurts watching everybody laugh about you being a bad partner when I'm the person affected by that. He's like, so what you wanted me to do? Sit there looking sad? Then he turns it into, you don't trust me. You don't give me grace. You know me better than they do. Now I got to come upstairs and take this from you too. And suddenly Felipe is the victim. And Tori, the person who came upstairs explaining her hurt, now is sitting there crying. She even gives him a perfect role reversal. Basically, what if I spent weeks saying I wanted to fuck other men? I didn't know whether I wanted to be married to you. I flirted with other people, and then everybody sat around laughing about me being the hoe of the group while I laughed along too. Would Felipe be sitting there having a great time? No. Tori eventually says, I just want you to consider me. That's the whole scene. And somehow it got turned into everything except for that. Eventually, they're like, maybe we're not for each other. Felipe goes downstairs. He's all quiet and looking all down and glum. And so the guy starts surrounding him. What's wrong, Felipe? What's wrong? Give him some space. Give him some space. And he's like, I think she just broke up with me. All dramatic. Like he's so hurt. So cut to Tori upstairs. She by herself breaking down crying. Eventually, the women do come in and comfort her, and they talk through what happened. And Marissa's telling Tori, girl, you Beyonce, and you with somebody else who thinks that they're Beyonce, but you really Beyonce. I don't know where the Beyonce moment came from, but I thought it was funny. It was like the line of the night, child, because it really, really brightened Tori up some. So it cuts back to the men, and the men are actually holding Felipe accountable, and I have to give the men credit. They don't just pity Felipe, okay? They start realizing maybe we went too far with the game. Maybe every time we pointed at Felipe for something negative, we weren't only joking about Felipe. We were also indirectly talking about Tori and what she has to deal with as his wife. So Mecca actually explains to Felipe, Mecca, of all people, child, the men, you know, like when people talk about your relationship, they're not talking about you. They're talking about it's a we. You know, and Felipe keeps thinking, me. And they think this about me. My family gives me grace. Tori should understand me. And everybody's trying to tell him, sir, it's a we now. It's not just me. And Felipe's like, my family knows me. They know I say stupid stuff and they give me grace. I can't be with somebody who I can't be myself around and doesn't give me grace. This is who I am, you know. And it's like, you know, your history explains your behavior. It doesn't excuse you from working on it. So Caitlin the girls end up coming downstairs. Caitlin pulls Felipe aside and she's explaining it to him more plainly. I don't know how much more plainly she could get from what Caitlin was saying. But Caitlin's like, what he should have done during the game was say, yeah, I said some crazy outlandish things earlier in the marriage. I shouldn't have said them, but I only want Tori now and we're not making my marriage a joke anymore. Boom, boundary. Ain't no more jokes about it. Don't nobody say nothing else about it. And Felipe laughing. And Caitlin says, like, I literally watched Tori sink into the couch while we was playing the game. You know, everybody understands Tori's point at this moment. You know, the men understood it. The women understood it. Mecca understood it. Caitlin understood it. And you know those two. Felipe was the only one still talking about, but what does she want me to do, sir? So they have now provided instructions, examples, visual aids, and a sample script, and you still don't get it. So before the retreat, Devin did tell Caitlin, they went out to dinner or whatever. You know, we've done a lot of emotional work. We've talked, we've shared, we've tried to move more like a married couple. I appreciate that. But listen, you know, it's no romance. It's no intimacy. You know, we haven't kissed since the honeymoon. You know, he's like, I'm not saying give me sex, but he's like, give me something. You know, and meanwhile, Caitlin in the confessional was like, I find him very attractive. You know, I thought, you know, we have been doing good. I thought that this, you know, couples getaway would be, you know, the perfect moment to give him the green light, you know. So she's basically saying, you know, she planned on getting intimate during the group retreat. Remember that too. So Caitlin decides that, you know, okay, I'm going to scratch his back a little. I'm going to touch his chest a little. I'm going to get a little bit more physically affectionate. And in her mind, that's her giving him the green light. Meanwhile, in Devin's brain, this woman hasn't kissed me since Mexico. Everybody just voted her most likely to get the ick. Everybody voted her most likely to a spouse swap. She's been sending me mixed signals for weeks. Now she scratched my back. What does that mean? You know, Caitlin, use your words, girl. Devin, come here and kiss me. You know, problem solved. Instead, she gets frustrated because Devin doesn't interpret her subtle cues as take me now. And they have their first big argument. excuse me, the next morning, Devin tells her the intimacy misunderstanding is one thing, but what I cannot have is you becoming rude and shutting me down, saying everything you want to say and then not letting me speak. You know, that's his boundary. He makes it known, like, I'm not having it. They talk it out. Both think night 2 will be better. So, we're going to see. So while the men and the women are separated at the retreat, Belle tells the women that Mecca said that she's pretty, but is she pretty enough for me? And no. So Nikki ends up relating it to Sean once telling her that, you know, yeah, you attend in Seattle, but in New York, I mean, you'd only be a 7. And the women are like, what? Wait. He said that to you. So wait, this nigga think he a 10? Michelle was like, nah, get the out of here. Like, they had a really good chuckle about that. So, here go Belle Jolie going hard on Sean in her confessional. I would never accept that. Absolutely not. Sean ain't for you. And I'm sitting here like, Belle Jolie, have you checked your own house? This does become interesting later because she starts talking about how men who say things that are insecure, they be trying to humble women. Nobody secure should feel the need to knock their partner down. And suddenly it does sound like Belle is talking about Mecca more than she is Sean. But it sounds like she's using Sean to say everything she hasn't fully admitted to Mecca. And Mecca catches it too. And later on, you see him asking Caitlyn, you know, was that something about me? Was she insinuating me? It seemed like she was talking about Sean at first. Yeah, she absolutely was. Sometimes it's easy to identify somebody else's bullshit because your feelings aren't attached to it. But when it's your own man, suddenly as he expresses himself differently, he's used to being the bad boy. He self-sabotages. It's all these excuses for him. He puts his foot in his mouth. But when it's somebody else's husband, you can see the problem immediately. So the men end up asking Mecca, Adam specifically, like, okay, Mecca, like, if Belle isn't your type, then what's your type? What you like, white girls? You know what I'm saying? Mecca's like, oh, nah, you know, I'm you know, I mean, Belle cool. I like a woman that's a little bit more thicker. You know, eventually he gestures towards being more thicker here. Because Adam was like, okay, that could, you know, she could get leaner. You know what I'm saying? He was like, well, I mean, not here or whatever. And they're like, oh, you want somebody with bigger titties. Anyway, his ex, the girl that he was talking about, he was in love or falling in love, went overseas. She's been online and she doesn't look like a thick girl to me. And she is a white girl. So I don't know. He said he's all colors. He doesn't have a type. He don't have no type. So meanwhile, in the other room, Belle Jolie, again, like I said, is defending this man. He's in a damn committee meeting discussing potential modifications to her body. And his energy with the men is weird. You know, suddenly I'm a young man. I like what I like. Big booty, big titty energy. And I'm sitting here like, Mecca, who the fuck are you? Because you around Belle, you know, oh, Belle, you're so beautiful. I notice all these cute things about you. I adore you. You know, again, he in the confessional talking about, yeah, I self-sabotage, you know. He's just ridiculous. So that night happens. The men have that conversation. The women have their conversation. And the next morning, Caitlyn is sitting outside. Remember, her and Devin had that argument the night before about him not seeing her cues. And Michelle and Cam are already sitting there. So Michelle's like, yeah, the guys had a pretty crazy conversation last night. So Cam's like rolling his eyes like, oh gosh. Loose lips sink ships, you know. And then he gets up walking away knowing that Michelle is going to tell Caitlyn what he told her that Mecca said about Belle. So he like, let me just go. So if, like I'm saying, if you really don't want Michelle repeating this information, why are you vacating the premises? Why are you talking about loose lips sink ships? Michelle makes it very clear that Belle Jolie deserves to know. She pretty much tells Caitlyn what Mecca says. Pretty much like he's disrespectful. She's going to air him out. Eventually, Belle does find out that Mecca was discussing that he wishes that she had bigger breasts. And now this attraction issue that has haunted their entire marriage gets another layer. She told him, there's nothing worse I could have been told right now. And Mecca's defense is basically, that was a conversation between the guys. I didn't think that it would get back to you, sir. How? Even if it was between y'all, you knew it was going to be aired. Whether it got back to her isn't the main problem. You said it. This is where Belle gives us one of her most important confessionals, I think. She essentially talks about two versions of herself. The married at first sight Belle and the regular life Belle. And she's admitting regular Belle would not put up with half the shit that she's been putting up with this marriage, with this man. But because of what she believes about marriage, blah, blah, blah. Her, she's focused on the principles of marriage, commitment, grace, staying, working through things, that she's losing touch with what she normally tolerate while dating. So she does admit her feelings for Mecca may be clouding her judgment. There it is. Once again, another woman who cries when she did nothing wrong. This attraction issue has been haunting the entire relationship, like I said. She, in that moment, because she pulls him aside, because they end up having dinner or whatever that night, and she pulls him aside after finding that out. And, she don't want to do it in front of everybody, so she pulled him aside and told him, how she felt, and just know, and this and that. But they ended up wrapping it in a bow. She ends up forgiving him like she always does, giving him grace, and they kiss and go right back downstairs, child. United front. So they go play another game. But again, we know she's not okay. We literally just sat there and watched her cry. And this is why I keep saying she's protecting the image of the marriage harder than she's protecting herself inside the marriage. So, like I said, another game. The question is basically, if you found out your match was a mistake, who else in the group could you see yourself being matched with? So Belle Jolie jokes Tori. And then Caitlyn jokes Marissa. Then she jokes Marissa and Tori, and they clink glasses. It's a little cute moment. And then then suddenly it gets weird. It's like everybody's telling Mecca, okay, Mecca, speak your truth. And Mecca's like, okay, well, Michelle, maybe Caitlyn. In that exact moment, you see Caitlyn like melting into the couch. She blushing. Devin is visibly uncomfortable. And then the game ends up ending. And guess who says, Mecca, you want to go have a chat for a second? Caitlyn. Immediately after this man just chose her. Mecca like, yeah. And then they go off. So everybody looking like, what are these cats doing and talk? So Adam teasing Devin like, you just gonna let your girl go out there? You know what I'm saying? Everybody joking, So then it gets to like, okay, Mecca's probably just talking him up for you, Devin, He's not. They outside talking about their own shit. My opinion, they look very flirty. Now, maybe y'all saw something different, but I watched all smiles. I watched the eye contact, the body language, the energy. It was flirty to me. And Caitlyn was the one who pulled him off for the private conversation right after the blushing when he picked her. Later on, you see it's 2:38 in the morning. Everybody's still up in the common area where you see like the living room, the couch, the kitchen area, the island. Everybody's drinking. We see that big empty Tito's bottle. We see Belle Jolie and Caitlyn just chilling, laying on the couch together. Mecca's kind of over them. Mecca and Caitlyn do this little pinky promise with the kiss thing. Belle Jolie is right there. She doesn't seem to be bothered by it. She's, like I said, her and Caitlyn is right next to each other. We see a moment where Mecca puts his chain on Caitlyn. Just, their energy just got flirty from there. So, but again, Belle doesn't seem upset by it. She doesn't seem moved by it. But Devin is. And here's the important thing. Belle's boundary does not have to be Devin's boundary. Devin believes that they're flirting. That's Caitlin's husband. Caitlin believes that he's ridiculous. They end up arguing right there. It looks like everybody kind of migrated upstairs to their own rooms, but them four are downstairs. Mecca and Belle and Caitlin and Devin. Devin and Caitlin is arguing back and forth in front of Mecca and Belle. Caitlin end up telling Devin to shut the fuck up, and Devin is like, you're so disrespectful. I'm done with this. He gets up and leaves. The next morning, they talk, and Devin's like, I can't get through to you. And Caitlin's like, this whole jealousy thing is so juvenile. Devin's like, you were flirting. You was putting his chain on. Like, what in the world? Of course she doesn't agree. But the important part about that is Devin says the flirting itself was not ultimately why he was ending the marriage. He tells her, we just talked yesterday about you shutting me down and disrespecting me during arguments. Then the next night you told me to shut the fuck up. For that is a deal breaker. You know what I'm saying? For Devin. So Caitlin pushes back that Devin was interrupting her too. She said she couldn't finish her sentence. She felt backed into the corner. She felt nitpicked and overanalyzed. She thinks that Devin constantly finds ways to misinterpret her. So I'm not saying Caitlin believes she did absolutely nothing wrong, but she even admits that she was extremely combative and aggressive during the first fight during night one of the couple's trip. But the two of them experienced conflict in completely different ways. And Devin's whole thing is, you dismiss me and don't let me speak. And Caitlin is like, you overanalyze me and I'm constantly trying to defend myself. So finally, Devin is like, I'm done. You know what I'm saying? And here come Caitlin with a closing argument. Talking about, well, actually, I was done on the couch last night. This is crazy. This is asinine. We're incompatible. You're a fantastic person, but I don't need anything else from you. Ma'am, he just broke up with you. But okay. You don't need to submit a resignation letter after HR has already deactivated your badge, baby. So at that moment, Devin is basically shaking his head like, I'm not participating in these toxic patterns. So he bounces. And remember what Caitlin said coming into the retreat. At this point, we either need to hook up or break up. Well, baby, y'all broke up. So we get to episode 18. They're having breakfast that next morning. Caitlin and Devin, let everybody know that they're done, and they're describing it as a continuing pattern and an emotionally draining relationship. And Devin ends up leaving by himself. Caitlin rides back with Cam and Michelle. Nikki drives Belle, Jolie, and Mecca. Adam and Marissa drive Felipe and Tori. So everybody's on our way back to Seattle. Felipe ends up meeting with his mom and his friend. And guess what? Still indecisive. He says it's hard for him to be his true self around Tori. Sometimes he get in trouble for just being himself, and she's everything he wants, but she's still not perfect. Nigga, neither are you. Now stop. Let's take the gloves off now, for real. Like I said, Felipe has been talking to all this ugly duckling and coming into himself later. Wonderful. Love that confidence for you, Felipe, but don't get your glow up confused with being God's gift to women. You know what I'm saying? Tori came into the marriage madly in like with your ass. The problem wasn't that she demanded perfection. The problem was that Felipe kept introducing chaos into something that was actually going pretty damn well. And his mom is like, me and dad love Tori. Tori would be perfect for you. But again, the decision is on Felipe. A mama knows her son. She's not taking responsibility if he fucks this up. Meanwhile, Tori is talking separately to one of her friends on FaceTime, and she's super torn. She could genuinely see Felipe being her husband forever. That's why it's not easy, but she also sees all the problems. Then later, Felipe and Tori are in bed. He got a wedding album made for them. They flipping through the pictures. It's really, really sweet. He looking her all in the eyes. She looking him in the eyes. She talking about, I could feel myself falling in love with you. You complete me in so many ways. You make me feel stronger. You have this overflowing love and kindness. I'm lucky. And she just looking up at him, beaming, looking him in his eyes. They end up kissing. And I'm just sitting here like, man, this is just, it's bullshit. So not necessarily because I think every beautiful thing Felipe says is fake. Maybe I do. But the problem is that his indecision is too real. You know, to Tori's face, period. You're an amazing person. You complete me. You make my life softer. But then away from her, comma. She's amazing, but she isn't perfect. I'm not sure. Single life is a leap of faith. Married life is a leap of faith. That's why I'm like, Felipe and Tori, Felipe, period, needs to give her the commas behind her back also. You know what I'm saying? Don't be all in her face one way and be behind her back another way. So Mecca finally admits that Belle does not have to tolerate his disrespect. He created the damage. He's deeply flawed. Again, the self-sabotage and manipulation. He said he came into the experiment wanting to hide those flaws and show the best version of himself. Sir, that's not growth. That's PR. The point isn't to hide your flaws until decision day. The point is what happens when the flaws show up. Do you own them? Repair them? Do you change them? So he's telling Belle, my answer is still yes. I want you to say yes, but if the totality of what I've done makes you say no, I understand. So Belle says something that really had me ready to throw something at the TV. Because I'm like, yes, girl. She's like, it's not my job to heal him. Okay, Belle, yes. But she's like, but part of me wants to stay because I feel like I can contribute to him becoming a better partner. Belle Jolie! You just said it wasn't your job. Okay, you applying for the same job, different title. Decision day isn't do you say yes to the man sitting in front of you or the man you think you could help develop. Decision day is not potential day. Then on their final date, because they start to have these final dates before decision day, Mecca tells Belle he's fallen in love with who she is at her core, her heart, her nurturing, her caring. He tells her he adores her. He cares immensely. He tells her, I'll be staring at you sometimes, just admiring. I know you be like, what you looking at? But I just be looking at you, He's like, I could 1,000% see in the future with you. And Belle is like, sir, you have said you're in love with every ingredient in the cake. Are you just going to say you love the cake? Because he never quite says, Belle Jolie, I'm in love with you. And Belle is still weighing everything out. Her self-respect, her self-value, the hurt, but also the good moments, the accountability, the connection, her soft spot for him. And she's like, what's the most important question? Can my heart continue to deal with this? The answer is no, Belle Jolie, baby, no. I wouldn't recommend it. So back in Seattle, everybody's back in Seattle, excuse me. Sean is back in Seattle from his mom's birthday party in New York. Sean ended up staying the first night in the group's retreat, but then he ended up flying to New York to celebrate his mom's birthday. So Nikki's telling him the theme of the retreat, of the rest of the retreat, or what he missed, of men saying disrespectful things, women getting hurt, men struggling with accountability. And she kind of brought it back to, I did tell the ladies that you told me, like, yeah, Nikki, you were 10 in Seattle, but in New York, you'll only be a 7. And she, she's like, that comment really stung. And Sean is like, okay, but remember what you said to me before that? He's like, Nikki, you basically grabbed my belly fat, shook my belly fat, and basically was like, look at you. So Sean is like, that hurt my feelings. So I retaliated. Basically, neither one of us is all of that, Now, it doesn't make Sean's response a healthy response, and it doesn't mean Nikki deserved it, but it does give us a little bit more context that the woman at the retreat didn't have when they were dragging his ass. And this perfectly proves what Nikki told Michelle. You don't know everything that's happening inside of somebody else's relationship. From the outside, Sean randomly rated his wife a 7 inside the relationship. And behind closed doors, Nikki made a hurtful body comment first. So Sean was hurt. He deliberately fired back and fired another hurtful comment. Both contributed to the exchange, and Sean apologized. That's why Nikki keeps saying we're good, because she, even through that, she keeps saying me and Sean are good. I even missed him when he was gone. But of course, it wouldn't be Sean and Nikki if it wasn't Sean and Nikki. Right before they separate, for like the couple start separating the night before decision night to spend one night apart to give them a little more time to make a choice, some time of reflection about the whole relationship. Do they want to say yes or no to move forward with the marriage on decision day? And right before they separate for the night before decision day, they have one more little debate. Like I said, it wouldn't be them. So they're reflecting on how wild the experiment's been. Nikki starts explaining her thoughts about Sean and who she come to know him as. And Sean basically cuts her off and was like, okay, girl, we don't need a whole speech. And Nikki like, damn, can I finish my thought? So then at that point, in that moment, she's annoyed. And Sean says, he's in his confessional like, well, my friends, I could joke like that and nobody would bat an eye. Nobody would turn into a fight. But I'm like, sir, this ain't one of your friends. This ain't one of your little friends. You not on a trip to Walmart. This is your wife. So reflecting on your marriage on the night before decision day and cutting her off, like, do you think that was like the best thing? Let this woman finish her paragraph, child. But I will give him credit. Instead of letting it completely implode, Sean is like, okay, how can we get out of this? What tools can we use? So they try the communication tool that they learn. And Nikki's explaining, like, I want to show up as my authentic self with my husband. And I feel received rather than, I want to feel received rather than managed. She's also like, sometimes communication feels clinical, like she's talking to a therapist rather than her husband or somebody at work. And Sean is explaining, like, my intent was genuinely to understand you. I wasn't trying to govern you, but I understand that it landed that way. And he apologizes. Nikki accepts it, but she's also like, I'm glad we're spending the night apart because I need to think clearly about what I want and if I want this forever. Then she probably gives the perfect description of the decision day dilemma. She's been carrying battle scars from the early weeks, and she's been carrying hugs and kisses and cuddles and stuff from the last 2 weeks. So the question is, if I say yeah, am I going to get the Sean who makes me feel safe now, who's been making me feel safe these last couple of weeks, or am I going to get what I think maybe the real Sean is, the Sean from earlier? So that's the question. Adam and Marissa both end up getting sick. They got influenza B and COVID, child. So they all cuddled up, looking pitiful together. But Marissa's loving how Adam is taking care of her. Chicken soup, tea, and honey, medicine. She's like, I love when Adam really locks in because that's when he's all caring and everybody doesn't get to see this attentive side of him. And it was a cute moment. I'll give Adam his point. Don't get me excited. It's good to be together. It's good that you taking care of her, but otherwise you want jet ski and you want pickleball, so don't play with my girl. And to her, don't play yourself, baby girl. So we got Cam and Michelle. They have their final day. They get emotional. They talk about the logistical issues with him working in Portland, coaching, and her being based in Seattle. And both of them are, again, willing to compromise. They still are lovey-dovey. We still going to say yes on decision day. And I'm not going to create a problem where there hasn't been one. But Sean did make an early observation, very good observation about Michelle. So she was saying how Michelle came into the experiment saying she wanted certain things around financial stability and lifestyle. Cam doesn't necessarily match everything she originally described. And Sean pointed out that Michelle has a history of accepting what men offer, even when it isn't necessarily what she originally asked for. And he predicted maybe their first big fight, that's going to be what the issue is. Maybe they'll work out beautiful, but love is, a wonderful thing, child. But after Portland and Seattle and bills and careers and income, travel, real life, that's what they want to be careful about. You know what I'm saying? Them finances, girl, can get it all messed up and construed, and love will be out the window and you'll just be focused on that. So they are the strongest couple right now, but I don't know if they've encountered their strongest test yet. And Sean actually brought that to my mind. So I think that is something to, consider. Now, like I said, one spouse from each remaining couple is packing up and leaving the night before decision day. It's packing, it's hugging, it's kissing, it's emotional, crying, goodbye forever or see you tomorrow for the rest of our lives. Caitlin and Devin ain't packing for reflection night. They held early decision day at about 2:38 a.m. the other morning, child. Sponsored by Tito's. So the final preview is pretty much dropping a bombshell at the very end of season 18. It doesn't look like they're going to have the decision day that Lifetime had. It looks like what they have is them just meeting up at a park, them getting dressed up, the limos or Cadillac Escalades taking them to a park to meet and saying yes or no to each other, saying their little spiel, saying yes or no to each other face to face. So we see, at the end of season 18, we see the beginnings of Tori and Felipe's decision day meeting. So we see Felipe and Tori meeting face to face. Felipe's giving this whole speech. You're incredible. You never waver. My feelings about you never waver. My legs are shaking. And Tori looking at him the whole time, stone faced, beautiful, lips freshly plumped. And she's looking at him. So when it finally gets to her to talk, she's just looking like almost breathless, like I don't even know what to say right now. We kind of see her in her confessional. You see his mouth dropping at, her saying, I don't know what to say right now. And Tori's in her confessional, like, after they moved out, her and Felipe had an all-camera conversation that she did not anticipate. And she's like, he really dropped a bomb on her. And she wasn't having it. Excuse me. She said it left her very hurt. It felt cruel. It felt very heartless. And I'm like, wait, what did he say? And in that moment, we got them face to face. He just said all this stuff. It's decision day. They got to make their final decision. And she's saying to him, I really like you. And he's like, yeah, I really like you. Like hoping she don't mention what they talked about off camera. But she like, but I think it's important to be honest. So you kind of see him, and she's like, do you think what you told me is normal? And he hesitates a little bit. And then he's like, yeah, man, I regret that heavily. And then the damn preview for next week ends. And I'm just like, what did this man say? After you complete me, you make me softer. I feel like I'm falling in love with you. I'm lucky. What did he say that was off camera that was so cruel and heartless? And then you also seeing them tease Cam and Michelle. Cam is looking emotional, like, I apologize. And he crying, Michelle crying, and she looking up at him like, is it me? So is this cat gonna say no? Like, what is happening? Is it the editing? So I don't know. Here go my predictions. Cam and Michelle still kind of look like a yes to me, but they got us with this dramatic preview. Adam and Marissa, I want them to say no, but they seem like they might say yeah. Nikki and Sean, I never felt confident about them. They gonna say no, child. Belle, Jolie, and Mecca. Mecca already basically said yes. Belle is the question mark. I honestly feel like he gonna pull the rug from up under her and is going to say no, but I hope and pray that she says no as well. Tori and Felipe, child. But after this preview, I have no idea. Whatever Felipe has said off camera changed the entire temperature of the relationship. Caitlin and Devin already done made their decision. So that's where episode 16 through 18 leave us, child. Next up, we got Decision Day and the reunion. It's only going to be 2 episodes they release next week. And we need answers. I need to know what happened with Felipe and Tori. I need to know whether Cam and Michelle's preview was real drama or was it some editing. I need Belle Jolie to decide whether she's choosing Mecca or is he the man that she hopes he becomes. I need to know whether or not Nikki believes she feels safe enough, to choose Sean. And I need for y'all to let me know what y'all think. Was Devin justified in being uncomfortable about, Caitlin and Mecca? Is Belle Jolie giving Mecca too many chances. Do y'all think Felipe and Tori can actually make it work? And what do y'all think that Felipe said to her at off camera? That's what everybody gonna be waiting for all week. Because child, I don't know, but listen, we gonna be back to find out. So I hope y'all had as much fun watching this mess as I did talking my stuff about it. And I'm gonna see y'all next time. All right, thank y'all again.